So, welcome viewers to our next episode of the Thought Leader Way. It's a precursor to my upcoming book on the same title, where we're going to cover insights and best practices from thought leaders from across the world on what exactly it takes to be a thought leader, how do you take that journey, and what are some insights which are necessary for that. Today, I have a special guest with me. He's a HR thought leader, global thought leader in the field of HR. He's the director of HR Trends Institute. He has been featured among Thinkers 360 B2B thought leaders to watch out for. He's held senior leadership positions in various global organizations like Aon, KPMG, Philips, among others. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Tom Haak to the show. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. So Tom, what according to you is thought leadership, or how would you define a thought leader?
Yeah, I would say a thought leader is someone who influences others in his or her domain, and is recognized as someone whose view is of interest. So it's sharing, influencing, and being recognized.
Okay. So do you think thought leaders are born or thought leaders are made?
No, I think thought leaders are made.
Okay.
I think nobody is born as a thought leader. No.
Okay.
And often they are self-made.
Self-made. Yeah, so that's interesting because you many times you wonder saying, so how does one become a thought leader? So what would your insights into that be?
Yeah.
How do you?
Well, I think, of course, I talked about influencing others, sharing, and so you must have something to tell. If you don't have something to tell, it's very difficult to become a thought leader. But there are many people with very good content who are not recognized as thought leaders because they don't share enough. Okay. So the second element is the sharing. I think that is very important. So consciously sharing is an important part of becoming a thought leader.
Sure.
And these days, as you know, it's all about sharing via social media. And of course, you share in other ways, but sharing via social media is important. I think part of it is also there is an entertainment factor. Mm-hmm. If you are able to tell your stories in a nice way and share things in a nice way, then it's easier to become a thought leader than if you're boring and dull with super good content.
True. So I think one is having those insights and knowledge, and second is actually how effectively are you telling that story, which also contributes to making a good thought leader.
Absolutely.
So what is your thought leader way? What has been your mantra for that?
Well, I think one, it is hard work. So the basis is hard work, because you have to do things, and you could say, in a sense, the things I share are the foundation has been done for years and years while I was working in international human resource management. So hard work, that's one element. Secondly is, as I already said, it's consciously sharing, and that takes an effort. That doesn't go automatically. So these days I spend a lot of time in creating content, but also in sharing the content, and that is also hard work. You have to continue to do that. And what else? You have to put an effort in the way you do it, visual, entertaining. So you have to be a little bit narcissistic is not the right word, but you don't have to be shy because you're constantly kind of promoting yourself as well, and you should feel comfortable with that.
In fact, I think that's a challenge with a lot of them have, right? So one is to even have a unique point of view, because if you don't have a point of view, who's going to listen to you? Number one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
two is to be okay to constantly go out and share your perspective. So
Yeah.
what do you think, people who are wanting to start off on this journey on thought leadership, what would be that advice that you would like to give to them?
Well, I think the first advice is always it's first about content. So you have to be creating unique content and a unique point of view. And in my perspective, that it helps also if that is solid, fact-based, scientific. And so just not opinions, but if it is based on something. So that's the starting point. So create content and then put an effort in sharing the content, but also doing that in a sense, in a marketing type of way. So who is your audience? What are the channels you are using? So also measuring there, what does your audience like? And see whether you can, it's not all about delivering messages your audience like, but where is your audience? And how do you work with your audience? And I think that's also an important element to measure that and follow that and track that.
Okay. I'm sure as part of your HR Trend Institute, there is a lot of focus from building and showcasing thought leadership. So I also know that you do a lot of workshops for leading corporates, mapping HR trends and those aspects. So any project or any particular moment that you have in your thought leadership journey, which you think demonstrated thought leadership effectively, which you would like to share?
Well, for example, I'll give you an example. Annually, each year in October, November, we publish an overview of what are the important trends for the year to come.
Yeah. Okay.
And of course, that's not science. It is partly, it is sensing the trends and daring to say, okay, well, this is what I sense, and then I publish that. And for me, that is also content-wise also a very important article, because the best read articles on our website are those articles. For 2020, that was the 12 trends, the 12 HR trends for 2020. Every day people read that article. And if you look now back at that article and the video attached to that, and I did not sense the COVID crisis, I did not sense all the you could say the racial turmoil in especially the US, but also in other areas. But if you look back in what I said in those days, it's remarkable how fitting it is. For example, I talked about the need to really take a more aggressive standpoint on diversity. I saw that coming, and that today is more and more appropriate. I also talked about the need for human resource managers, human resource profession, to be more activist. Don't hide behind the walls of your organization, but say, we as an organization, we as people also have a responsibility for society and what's happening in society. And so I did not make that up, but if you look back, you could say in a sense, I'm very happy that I was able to express that already in October, November 19, and today it's more and more appropriate. So I hope that now it's not October yet, but I hope that this year in October, November, I will be able to come up with something that's appropriate for 2021. That's my challenge.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So what would you say for people that they should not be doing with respect to thought leadership?
Well, I think it's very important that they should not let themselves be sponsored. So it's very important for a thought leader to be kind of independent. And if you're sponsored, that there's a tension. Then you say, well, why is he or she saying that? to promote the service or
Yeah.
to promote a product, or because he or she really thinks that. So I think independency, staying independent on the positive side, so being dependent, you should not be doing. In the end, you should also not lose your sense of humor. If you take yourself too serious as a thought leader, I think, well, at least that's not very effective. So some distance, some ability to look at yourself with a certain sense of humor. I think that's also important.
Interesting.
And certainly also, in the end, also don't be afraid to reverse your opinion and to reverse your what you're saying. And so you have to be consistent, but at the same time you have to take new facts and data into account.
That's an interesting point, because you should not be too hard fixed on what prediction that you've made, and if there is
No, and that you sometimes see that thought leaders stick too much to their point of view.
With their opinion.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do you believe that thought leadership is more important now than ever before in the new normal?
Well, I think what is important, that there are people who think independently and are not afraid to voice their opinion. And too many people these days are dependent. They're dependent on the company they work for. They're dependent on the government they work for. They're dependent on the political party. So they are dependent. And then people become more and more afraid to voice discerning opinions. And I think that is a tendency today we see a lot. Forceful opinions are valued, but we need more nuanced. We need nuance. And I think thought leaders can help to bring nuance. And I think that's very important in business life, but also in society. So it's needed, but I might not be so positive at the moment about that.
Okay. So that's very interesting, because you need to be a lot more nuanced, and you need to be a lot more open to the changes which are happening.
Yeah.
And you need to take a very marketing centric approach to your thought leadership as well. So those were
but not be too populistic. So you could say, well, if I voice the opinion of the people, then but it's not populistic. It's independent.
True. So not populistic, but being independent. I think that's the key to becoming
for me.
Good thought leader.
Yeah, for me. Yeah.
And I agree with you. So that's key, because the more independent you are in your opinion, the more unbiased you're going to be. And hence, that's where a unique perspective, which can probably benefit the industry or the situation, really occurs.
Exactly. So independent is also, rowing against the stream. I don't know whether that's an English proverb, but say, okay, well, everybody is saying this, but is that really true?
True.
And especially in my field, that there are a lot of, you talked about biases, but there are so many biases, and there's so many gut feel opinions that are not really fact-based, data-based, that it helps if there are people who are saying, well, can we take another perspective? Yeah.
So I think having diversity in your perspective also becomes important.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a leader. So thanks, Tom. There was some wonderful insights that you shared, some very practical insights which are there, I would say, for people who are starting their journey on becoming a thought leader. So thanks once again for taking this time.
Absolutely.
To do this. Thank you.